The culture is absolutely...
The gut ain't running there. Calling both games.
Welcome to Cap Hell, Green Bay. You knew that last year was the best shot you had of securing another ring, and you failed miserably. Congratulations, here's your inevitable talent shedding. The Aaron Rodgers question has reached final jeopardy. What would he do this offseason? Would he stay in Green Bay or would he begin Brett Favre's world retirement tour? All of Wisconsin waited with bated breath as to what he would decide for his future. For a man who says he doesn't like drama, he sure likes to relish in it. That's enough torture for 1 month. Aaron is staying put at Lambeau, where he will lead the Packers to a brutally disappointing playoff exit at home yet again. But this time he's getting paid even more in bonuses to do it. In fact, things have been good for Green Bay. Robert Tonyan, Devondre Campbell, Randall Cobb, and Rasul Douglas, they're all back. The cap crunch forced them to cut Za'Darius Smith, but Rashawn Gary's coming into his own. Shit, they saved enough that they were able to franchise tag Devontae Adams. Too bad that Adams doesn't want to play on it, and for very good reason. When Christian Kirk is getting $18 million a year, why the fuck should you settle? So negotiations went underway, but a deal couldn't be done here. He had to be traded off to the sultry landscape of Vegas for draft picks. A bitter end for a tumultuous relationship. Let's get something clear. Money was never the issue here. Green Bay offered Devontae as much as Vegas did, but he wanted to leave. So off he goes in the greatest casualty the Packers have seen since Brandon Bostic on that onside kick. But Green Bay, I have a question to ask. Adams, MVS, and St. Brown are gone. Who is Rodgers going to be throwing to? Alan Lazard? Randall Cobb? Tom Grassi? Just give me some fucking answer.
The Green Bay Packers select Quay Walker, linebacker, Georgia.
Green Bay, are you okay? You have desperate holes at edge and wide receiver and you pick an inside linebacker? That's not Devin Lloyd? Walker is upside, don't get me wrong, but it strikes me as a pick for the future when the Packers need to desperately fill immediate needs. They did the same kind of shit back in 2020 and look what ended up happening to them. I know the wideouts would have been a reach here, but you need to do something about it. For the love of God!
The Green Bay Packers select Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, Georgia.
So Green Bay chooses to actively ignore wide receiver again, eh? Here's a disclaimer. Devontae Wyatt does fill a need for them to actively relieve Kenny Clark as a 3-tech. Wyatt should be a damn good player for the Packers. However, with this pick, they are once again ignoring the gigantic elephant in the room. I know you can argue Aaron Rodgers can throw to anyone, but those Darren Waller rumors a few weeks ago haven't had any smoke. I can say they at least did something. On day 2, they traded up for Christian Watson, who will be expected to be God right off the bat. Packers are really good at prolonging agony, aren't they? We should know from how they play in January. Last year felt like the best chance they had at winning another ring. Like many years in the Rodgers era, the Packers pissed it away. The special teams hopefully won't be dog shit with Rich Bisaccia at the helm. But cap issues cost them a good chunk of their receiving core. Without reliable wideouts who know Aaron inside and out, things are looking sketchy there. The young, the unproven, and Randall Cobb. It unfortunately takes a good bit of time to generate chemistry, but Aaron's time is growing short. He's not happy with his new receivers, and they've taken notice. It's not all bad, though. Romeo Doubs looks like he could be a beast. And a good bit of the free agent class is going to be back. However, that Devontae Adams-sized hole is going to be looming large. If they can manage, the chances of failing in Lambeau in January become significantly higher. If not, same result. Even with the teams that are choosing to blow it up and start from scratch, there is still plenty of intrigue with the NFC. So many teams desperate to win a championship or go far into January. And even more trying to make a name for themselves. The NFC East hasn't had a repeat champion in years. So I'm going to maintain that narrative and pick Philly to win it. The NFC North is still Green Bay's to lose, but they're slowly losing grip on their stronghold. The NFC South has a few suitors, but the Bucs are still too loaded to really fail unless they get injured to hell and back. The NFC West? Huge question mark, but I think the Rams are still the team to beat. But what about the wild cards? It's tough to choose, there are so many good options here. In this case, I'm choosing the Niners, Saints, and Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. I think people are sleeping on them. Then again, we've said this about them before, only for them to fall apart. Sorry about that, Minnesota. I've been on the Packers Foundation being shaky train for months now. This week was supposed to be the standard superiority against a local other franchise in Minnesota. That would have been the case in the age of Mike Zimmer. Green Bay getting their fucking asses kicked in a week 1 is as standard as a sunny day in California. You can count on the Vikings to take a wrecking ball to whatever optimism Wisconsin had. I get the Packers had a ton of injuries, but Minnesota just had their way in every single orifice of theirs. Those holes include the drops the receivers had. Looking right at Christian Watson on this deep ball. Here's some delicious irony. Davante Adams had more receiving yards than every Packers receiver combined this week. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is pissed off, all right. Only problem is that he's getting pissed at his own damn team. The passive-aggressive throwing of teammates under the bus on the Pat McAfee show will be must-watch this season. Despite all the chaos and insanity of modern football, there are things that still remain the same. That being Green Bay teabagging the Chicago Bears at every given opportunity. It's to be expected the Bears are quite young and undergoing a much-needed rebuild. However, that won't stop Aaron Rodgers from claiming a stake of land in Arlington Heights. And in Chicago proper. Chicago tried their damnedest to stop the two-headed monster of Rodgers and Aaron Jones. I don't blame them for failing, it's just that they were the unfortunate victims of a revenge game after a week 1 failure. The Bears can try all they want, it won't matter in the end. Be it by their own mistakes or Packer might, they will lose this game. Maybe it has to do with that failed goal line conversion where they ran a QB sneak out of shotgun with a disadvantage at interior line on 4th down. Yeah, that works well. It was over then. Tough luck, Bears. Fail again next time. I wonder if Tampa Bay is going to find their next batch of receivers on a reality TV show. Mike Evans is suspended, Julio Jones and Chris Godwin are out, and Gronk's gone on a 6-year bender. Fortunately for the Bucs, their defense is still fucking incredible. They've clamped down on their opponents, and Green Bay is no exception. They also lack a thing called reliable wideouts, and that stone-cold D will make sure that any yardage gained will be done in pain. The Packers rushed out to an early lead, but against Tampa in Tampa? No luck in trying to escape easily. They're going to have to work for their win. Apparently nobody can hold on to the football these days, fumbling the rock like it's fresh out of a searing broiler. The turnovers were furious. But after that, a duel of defense. Headed into the final drive of the game, Tom Brady knows a thing or two about these heroics. His body may be withering and he may have no receivers, but by God, he will get them to the promised land come hell or high water.
Play clock at 1. Get it off. Brady throwing end zone. It is caught for the touchdown.
See what I mean? Now, as long as they get the 2 points, a second delay of game on a 2-point conversion in 2 weeks? What the hell?
Gresham steps away, throwing tip, incomplete. The Packers are going to win it.
Green Bay hangs on by the skin of their teeth. A brilliant defensive contest leads Tom Brady to a bitter defeat. The hell do you think you are, Tom? Kyler Murray? That delay of game penalty probably fucked you over in the end. Now beat it back to your Charmin soft division. The war between Darth Belichick and fallen Jedi Rodgers has lost its luster over the years. Young apprentice Mac Jones is going to be out of this match. So we begin yet another tenure of the Madden-generated Brian Hoyer at QB for the Patriots. At least that was the case until Hoyer was knocked out with injury. Thus, their new sacrificial lamb is... hold up, I actually have to look this up. Bailey Zappi! Come on down and please, for the love of God, don't suck. That dubious honor would go to Aaron Rodgers. He looks like shit. Completely missing his throws, throwing like Davante Adams will be somewhere in the vicinity of the throw, and ready to chuck his entire team under the bus for shit that's his own damn fault. Green Bay is imitating a team to the east of them. They are playing down to competition. The fortunate thing for them is that the Patriots are starting a third-string quarterback, and they've limited the already limited offense for him as a result. Even then, both teams are stunningly moving the football. Points are being scored. Tied at 24, all of Lambeau is undergoing a combination of heavy drinking and angina. Romeo Doubs had a chance at a brilliant touchdown, but he dropped it on contact with the ground. Aaron Rodgers will have him killed in a few days. These teams must settle for overtime and the grueling slog of it all. The Packers get first shot. They fail. The Patriots can respond in kind. And they do with a 3-and-out. Green Bay finally realizes that they have to win this game to stay ahead in the NFC North. They don't want to be tied with the Bears, do they? It's an ending as predictable as the Lambeau Leap. Rodgers manages to throw with precision, and Mason Crosby lines up to win the game.
For the win from 31, Crosby, right down the middle.
Well done, boys. You beat a Wither team playing their third-string quarterback. Give yourselves a nice pat on the ass and run as fast as you can out of the building. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Green Bay becoming complacent and over-relying on Aaron Rodgers to do anything on offense. Where have I seen this before? Did Mike McCarthy lose a shit ton of weight recently? Because if I didn't know any better, the Packers got way too cocky and looked past their opponent. The first half was the standard Packers cruising out to an early 17-3 lead. But after that, what the hell was that offensive game plan? All they did was predictably throw the ball and fail miserably. The defense couldn't get off the field for long stretches of time. New York straight up suffocated a team ripe for the kill. G-men were running wild, almost championship contender-esque. 17 consecutive points to not only snatch the game away, but take the lead. Are you sure that Aaron Rodgers calling his own plays is still a good idea, Matt? Not trying to run the ball with heavy investment in your running backs is a good idea, Matt? Scoring no offensive points in the second half is a good idea, Matt? Alright, Aaron Rodgers will just bail the team out again like he's had to for over a decade and carry the team on a final drive.
Right there, that shoulder tap. You ready for Lazard?
Ball batted again. Incomplete. The Giants hold the Packers out of the end zone. 1:02 to go.
Or not. So the Giants were allegedly the worst 3-1 team to ever exist, huh? The way they ripped Green Bay's heart out, they earned this one. To think they nearly kept Joe Judge around instead of make the logical decision. Goddamn. This game was a complete blowout. Destruction of everything a team cherishes and respects in ritual humiliation. What do you think of when I say this? In previous years, you'd assume that the Packers were the ones destroying the Jets. This time? Oh Lord, Green Bay might be hitting the wall. Their offense is atrocious. Aaron Rodgers needs to be reeled in, yet Matt LaFleur is too passive to even consider the thought. You bring in all of these weapons, yet Rodgers only bothers to throw to Randall Cobb or Alan Lazard. He's suiciding himself with endless hero ball that you'd think his name was Carson Wentz. Not to mention his offensive line is awful. The Jets zoned in their game plan to emphasize these glaring flaws. The Packers' special teams unit did the rest, self-destructing upon even a wind of resistance. Green Bay is imploded to lose back-to-back games for the first time in the LaFleur era, and nothing's going to change there despite it. What will change? The Jets. They're playing organized, efficient ball. They are shedding their butt fumble status. In hostile ground, they secured a well-earned victory. As I said, embrace the chaos. It's the only way to survive the impending nuclear winter. We all dreamed of a world where the Packers lose to Washington this week. The joy and laughter it would bring would warm us during the winter freeze. And being embarrassed by Taylor Heineke. Oh, what a glorious sight. Too bad no one really thought it would happen. Green Bay, meet your Red Scare. You tried to be General MacArthur and invade mainland D.C.? Washington's going to throw everything they have at you to retreat back to South Korea. Nefarious elements have invaded their ranks. Or at least they think that's the case, because every crutch the Packers have relied upon over the years has been nowhere to be found. Aaron Rodgers is falling apart. The offense refuses to utilize their running backs until it's far too late. The only receivers getting attention are Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. And Cobb's now hurt. I'd say throw the ball to others, but they'll bounce and drop like 50-50 checks. The only production is on the defense. They're saving their asses with 2 separate defensive TDs. Wait, 1 defensive TD. The other got called back because of... Is this a penalty? Perhaps Dan Snyder had dirt on the reffing crew or something, but that doesn't matter. What does is Green Bay ready to prep their nukes. Past failures could be blamed on special teams, or defense, or McCarthyism, or even lazy management. It's the entire offense. That was your safety valve. And thanks to Heineke doing just enough to win, we get to recreate Winston Churchill's call to Hitler after Stalingrad. You lost to the commies. You blew it, boy. You really blew it. After last week's humiliating loss to the Commies, Green Bay was hoping for a bounce-back game. I hate to tell them this, but their next opponent is Buffalo in Buffalo. They are a well-oiled machine that stops for nothing, not even underachieving offensive units. The Packers will predictably lose because they lack the strength and firepower that they had in previous seasons. Sacrifice is on the menu in Buffalo, and it's always their opponent. All you can do if you're in Wisconsin is look for silver linings. At least you didn't get completely fucking destroyed by the Bills. The NFC is enough of a mosh pit that you can secure a wildcard spot. They finally managed to utilize the damn running game to positive effect. There's nothing to do but grasp at straws. Or if you're Jair Alexander, try and start a grudge with Stephon Diggs. Roughly half the league is in some stage of false hope. It only means more comedy for the rest of us down the line. In the cold tundra of Lambeau, Green Bay stews and plans their next move. Their offense has glaring flaws. Mainly everything. They need offensive linemen and they need wide receivers. Rumors of the Packers trying to go for big game burn on the hot stove. Opening up the pot, what do they find? Nothing. There was literally nothing in the pot. It burned on the open fire. They tried to make deals, but couldn't come to terms with anyone on the market. It was for the best with the going rates. Unfortunately, it might cost them another chance at a blown home game at Lambeau. Such a shame. Don't worry, everyone told Green Bay. You may be complete shit. You may have said you tried and failed to get help at wideout, but you'll still win this week. You're playing Detroit. They have the worst defense in the league by a country mile. The Packers aren't listed as their father on their birth certificate for no reason. They own this city more than Ford and General Motors do. Aaron Rodgers never got that memo. He can get pissed all he wants. He can bitch up a storm. He can throw as many people under the bus after the game, but that won't cover the shit show he put on here. 3 interceptions inside the red zone. You gift wrap these footballs to the Lions like they were for Christmas. The Packer defense is balling out and you're giving them this to work with? Aaron's becoming a colossal liability in front of our very eyes. And Green Bay's locked into him for the short term. The most agonizing part is that this game is within reach. Detroit can't do anything. Dan Campbell looks like he can't manage a load of laundry with how bad they are. Yet the gods are angry at the Packers. They say, no, we've had enough of you choking at Lambeau in January. You're going to fall to shit now. Green Bay will gain scores of yardage between the 20s, but nothing else. Their offense is pure shit. And despite Aaron doing his typical bailout shtick, the inevitable becomes reality.
Get it off. Rodgers floats one. Incomplete.
They lose to the Lions, quickly becoming the best damn comedy in America every week. Falling into the abyss, losing 5 straight for the first time since 2008. Everyone's injured and the window slamming shut in your face, but it's okay. You never gave up. God, shut up, Aaron. Just shut the fuck up. You blew it! This is new territory for Green Bay. They must win this match. It doesn't matter if it's against a strong opponent in the Cowboys. It doesn't matter if it's against the old coach that held them back for years. The Packers need this victory if they want to maintain a chance at the postseason. Throughout the game, it's not looking good. Dallas is proving the adversary that the Lambeau faithful were fearing. Or at least they would if Dak Prescott could throw to any open receiver besides Rudy Ford. Despite Dak's sloppiness, Green Bay is generous enough to allow them to tie the game just before half. It's here where an old friend reemerges after being told to fuck off. Terrible special teams play. Amari Rodgers has more fumbles this season than he has catches. And they're still having him return punts? No wonder why Dallas is rumbling away with the game. Death was inevitable. Then we remember that Green Bay needed to expose the fraud. It'll be done thanks to Christian Watson having his breakout moment as a receiver. A Mike McCarthy team pissing away a sizable lead at Lambeau? Surely this is a first. At least the Cowboys can be saved with overtime. Or so we think. The genius of Mike McCarthy continually rolls into view. Instead of utilizing the potent rushing attack on a 3rd and short, force a sluggish Dak to chuck it and die. Absolute genius play calling and field goal range. I know Cowboys fans are going to talk about my pass interference, but how does that explain pissing away a 14-point lead? How does that explain your so-called elite defense falling apart? Green Bay does the predictable thing. It's like clockwork.
Kick is up and good! A Green Bay winner!
Mike McCarthy managed to help the Packers win a critical game. There really is a first for everything. We are gathered here today to pretend to mourn the 2022 Green Bay Packers. A team who looked too far ahead for weeks on end and finally received their comeuppance. The cause of their death is pretty much everything. An offense that fails to stay in sync and abandons the run game at the drop of a hat. A defense destroyed by injury. A group that gave up over 300 yards passing to the second worst pass offense in football. It's all a recipe to lose 6 of 7 and wait for Aaron Rodgers to turn into a petulant child throughout the week. The feeling's mutual. The team gave up as quickly as Packers fans did. Tennessee strangled them until there was no life in their withered body. They are the heroes of the NFL. They put this menace in hospice. Rest in piss, Packers. The rest of the NFC North may now spit on your grave. This is why you have to win the games you're supposed to win, Green Bay. Because if the Giants, Washington, and Detroit didn't humiliate you, you wouldn't have to try and achieve the impossible. You wouldn't have to fail miserably at trying to stop the Eagles' potent rushing attack. Attempting to stop Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders went about as well as Aaron Rodgers touring a Pfizer facility. It was a throwback to the mid-2010s. Packers caught in an offensive gauntlet against a team that dissects their awful defense apart. At least this Green Bay unit has the excuse of missing players and missing logic from Joe Barry for their performance. Unfortunately for you, the record does not care for technicalities. It only cares for results. The Packers can fight and claw all they want, but it won't be enough. Philly's doing everything in their power to self-destruct and hand them the game, but Green Bay never had a grasp on anything stable. And if you thought it was over before, it surely is now. Aaron Rodgers was knocked out of the game due to injury. With how poor he's been, I consider shutting him down. The season's lost, and you have to see what you have in Jordan Love. He did well in his limited playtime for what it's worth. The Eagles kept tripping over themselves, but their offense is too talented to let repeated fuck-ups ruin their day. Victory is theirs. However, they've been looking mighty fraudulent these past few weeks. You sure you want to imitate the 2020 Steelers? Your eyes aren't deceiving you. The Packers in a tank bowl? Are you out of your mind? Well, before this game, Green Bay had a top 10 pick in the draft. This is a tank bowl. Don't tell them that, though. They still want to foolishly believe a playoff berth is still within striking distance. Fortunately for them, guess where they are? Their vacation home in the heart of Chicago. Every time the Packers stare in the face of hell or fail in January, there's always the warm embrace of their hated rival to the south. They only have Justin Fields being sent out to carry an entire freight liner to victory or die trying. I will say he's doing his best attempt in doing so. The Bears have a really strong lead headed into the half, but then you remember, Aaron Rodgers owns Chicago. Long after life on this planet is dead. Long after the sun is burned out. Long after our memories and traditions are merely dust drifting across the cold abyss of space, Aaron Rodgers will defeat the Bears. He pulled out the whip from his bag of bullshit and started beating people with it. Be comforted, Chicago, your tank is still secure. The playoff push is reaching its final stages. Only one spot has been clinched by Philadelphia, but 4 weeks remain. Philadelphia obviously has number 1 seed, but the division is still up for grabs. Minnesota, after an ugly loss this past week, is still 2nd seed, and the NFC North is technically secured as well. The torrid pace of the Niners has them starting to run away with the West in 3rd place right now. But the NFC South is best not discussed. Tampa Bay only has it because the division is straight up awful. Meanwhile, Dallas is sitting pretty with 10 wins and first wildcard. After that, it's a mosh pit. Washington and the Giants are currently tied at 7-5-1, and Seattle struggling to maintain form with an easy schedule. Detroit's creeping up though, and don't forget the rest of the garbage in the NFC South still has a chance. The picture will become clearer as time goes on. And as we all know, there's only one rule to follow.
Don't get eliminated!
The cold tundra of Lambeau has taken many souls in its illustrious history. It does not care if you were a Super Bowl champion a year ago. When you fall here, you're merely a statistic. I think the football gods understood our plight. We were so exhausted from everything that happened the past few days that they gave us a predictable, uneventful match to glance at in the background. Green Bay is still clinging on to the very slim chance they have at a playoff berth, and the Rams are roadkill. Too bad, boys, you aren't playing the Raiders. You're merely another notch in the belt. The Packers stay alive, but Aaron Rodgers is still ready to kill his receivers. As for LA, they won their prize, but at an incredible cost. Whatever remained of their soul. We've had quite a lot of teams reach playoff land this week, didn't we? It doesn't mean we're anywhere close to settling how things will shake out. Philly still holds number 1 seed, and can clinch their division with either a win or Dallas loss. Minnesota and San Francisco both clinched their division since there's no elite team rivaling them in division. It's only positioning they're playing for. They won't have to worry about Tampa Bay. They are ass. And their division is even more ass. Please delete it from our existence. The winner of this shit pile will probably be hosting a playoff game against the Cowboys. And we will wish for death. The other 2 wildcard spots are currently held by the Giants and Commies despite the G-Men winning last week. Seattle is falling hard while Detroit is rumbling back into the picture after being left for dead. Green Bay hangs on by a thread. And so does the rest of the NFC South. This is gonna be quite fucky, isn't it? Everyone left, you know what to say.
Don't get eliminated!
Remember when we thought the Dolphins a legitimate Super Bowl contender? Those times felt nice, didn't they? After the outright implosion they've been on over the past month, this will be known as Miami's Vice. A time where Jalen Waddle will make outstanding individual efforts to carry this team to a long touchdown. A time where dazzling offense will save the day. A time where the Green Bay Packers will yeet the ball 10 yards past a receiver on a 4th and 1. And then fake a punt at their own goddamn 20. Should be a Dolphins win here, right? You underestimate Miami's ability to completely implode. Every chance they should have to score points or one-up a team in a must-win game will be squandered. Tied at 20 in the second half? Doesn't matter if Green Bay isn't doing everything to win. Tua is in the spirit of giving. He was visited by 3 critics and chose to give tasty turnovers to the Packers defense. Maybe it was the concussion symptoms he was apparently experiencing. Where was the spotter on all this? No wonder why they've lost 4 straight. Green Bay needed this one too. They had every single thing go right this week. And false hope reigned supreme with a bunch of frauds ahead of them in the standings. Yep, they're making the playoffs now. God damn it. With a few big losses this week, the NFL playoff picture has become a mosh pit, as has been written for time eternal. The NFC East is still the same scenario as before. Winning clinch for Philly, and that includes the number 1 seed. If Dallas loses once as well, they are doomed to play as a road team in the wild card. The NFC South is still the division that should not exist, and Tampa Bay can seal it away with a win against the Panthers. If Carolina wins, though, we continue down the chaos timeline. New Orleans is still technically alive, but will need a lot to happen to win the South. With wildcards, Dallas most likely will be headed to the NFC South winner. The Giants still sit comfy, a game ahead of Washington for the 2nd spot, with the Commies taking last seat for now. With Detroit and Seattle both losing last week, Green Bay can bullshit their way to a postseason berth with a few more things happening in their favor. But they need the Lions and Seahawks to keep losing. The Saints can also clinch a wildcard, but it's an extreme long shot. But it's a shot nonetheless. And if you have that, you can still chant the rule.
Don't get eliminated!
There's a reason why many people find the Minnesota Vikings the biggest frauds this side of Sam Bankman-Fried. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because whenever they have to play a critical matchup or a quality team, they turn into an ostrich burying its head in the sand. The perfect opportunity was there to one-up hated older brother to the east. But they were feeling generous. They chose to simply bend over and let them have their way. Green Bay was favored by 3, but that may have been out of pity for the Vikings. In fading Lambeau, you seriously expect to overtake the Packers with some random guys from HR? What are you gonna do, litigate them to death? It's how we know we're in hell. Green Bay's winning crucial home games in January. And thanks to every single thing falling in their favor, they now control their own destiny to a bullshit 7th seed. They don't deserve it with how badly they played early in the year, but I don't think the football gods want Detroit to make it. They have a special hatred of them. The NFC East is also somehow still up for grabs, with Philadelphia being winning clinch for the 3rd week in a row. If Dallas wins and Philly loses next week, we all die. Every other division is locked up, but number 1 seed is still up for grabs. Philly should have it. But if they lose and San Fran wins, the Niners get it. If both of them lose and Dallas wins, we all die more. Then the 7th seed. Green Bay now controls their own destiny, God help us all. If Green Bay suffers another January home loss, Seattle would have to win to get it. If both the Packers and Seahawks lose, Detroit would slingshot back to the top. It's a lot to digest, and hard to comprehend considering situations. But we must remember,
Don't get eliminated!
in the hellscape that is the NFC, the 7th seed is also primed to be cannon fodder. Green Bay can overcome their own self-destruction by simply winning. Seattle can make it by taking care of their own business and some help from Detroit. The Lions still have a chance but need a win, and Seattle lost. With that in mind, let's go to Seattle. Detroit no longer has anything to play for, but have you seen this team under Dan Campbell? They'll fight to the last man at bingo night. If you can take down a hated rival, why wouldn't you take the chance to? It's also the perfect end cap to a season where you rose from the doldrums of 1-6. A winning record is tantalizing, and so is forcing your opponent to trip on their own landmines. The refs tried to do everything in their power to hand Green Bay a win in the beginning. The calls of rigging cried throughout the night, but this is a different Packers team. No longer one eager to let the offense do the talking. They wish to sing a song of self-destruction. Green Bay cut off its own legs to spite itself. It would explain the Aaron Jones fumble. It would also explain why Rasul Douglas disconnected his controller and interrupted the snap before halftime. But it doesn't explain what Quay Walker did. Pushing a fucking trainer? Dude, that was the literal worst time you could have done anything. And it got him ejected. For the 2nd time this year. Even Matt LaFleur was losing his shit over such stupidity. Regardless of result, that's the easiest locale of the week decree I've given in about a week. But now we know, it was Green Bay's death knell. Dan Campbell doesn't care for sentimentality. He wants blood. That's why he's going to make the ballsiest damn calls known to man. And it was rewarded with a touchdown to take the lead. Aaron Rodgers, here is your chance to overcome your choking reputation in key moments.
Here's a blitz. Can Rodgers beat it? Big ball downfield, and it is intercepted by Kirby Joseph.
You've held the team hostage for 2 years to do that. Packers ran themselves into a pit of spikes. An opportunity for a bullshit 7 seed after the terrible start you had was being handed to you by the rest of the NFC. But you felt that losing another home game in January was more desirable. Dan Campbell knows he needs to twist the knife. And he does. He's learned what all of Detroit says. Fuck the Packers. A dagger to potentially end an era. If it is, Aaron Rodgers bows out like Brett Favre did here. With an interception. Sometimes the end comes quickly and without warning. We saw it happen to more than a few teams in the past, but the death of many others is slow and prolonged. Green Bay's demise in 2022 was much more the latter than anything else. Even from the opening bell of the season, something about the whole team felt off. Aaron Rodgers was declining rapidly. There was no chemistry between him and receivers. Joe Barry enjoyed vanilla too much for his own liking. The offense was the main problem. Something the Packers had the luxury of deliberately avoiding. It feels like the beginning of the end, if we're being honest. When you start the season 4-8, you have to be near perfect to get to the postseason. And to be fair, they nearly were. Until they remembered their traditional January loss at Lambeau. Green Bay was so eager for it, they lied down to die in the final game of the season. And they were in a win-and-din scenario. With that, the end may be closer than it appears. You merely delayed it, but the Aaron Rodgers question is popping up again. He may have played his last game as a Packer. Alan Lazard surely has, but it's either Aaron or Jordan Love. Both can no longer coexist in this timeline. You must choose. The completely unproven commodity or the guy who's been holding the team hostage for the past 2 seasons. Make your move, Green Bay. It's going to be painful either way.